And Sasha, I saw you nodding quite a few times. What are your thoughts on this spectrum between downsides and upsides?
Thanks, Sebastian. I'm nodding because I think I will largely reiterate and echo what Keith and Hiroaki said in his opening keynote, and be very straightforward, is that our position on AI/ML, including generative AI, is that the design, development, and deployment has to respect the rule of law, human rights, and values of equity, privacy, and fairness. And this is something that guides the way in which we work at AWS in terms of working backwards, obviously from our customers, but also from these principles throughout the entirety of the life cycle. But I also echo what Keith and Hiroaki underlined, that foundation models are fueling a new set of questions because of the vastness and open-endedness and fluidness of this kind of technology, and raising and pushing to the forefront a lot of questions specifically around privacy, bias, and more. And I just want to share some of the questions that we're thinking about with our customers and partners at Amazon Web Services. First, what safeguards can we put in place to identify and mitigate bias as an output of foundation models? Second, how do those safeguards change depending on the use case? Third, what steps can we take to minimize and remove any false or inaccurate content? And fourth, how can we protect and address questions around privacy of data and source attribution, which, sitting in Europe, I'm sure many have followed the recent conversations in Italy and beyond, specifically around this issue. But I also echo what Keith said, is that while we can't ignore some of these risks that I evoked, we also can't deny the role and potential of this technology for innovation in Europe and beyond. And this technology is being leveraged across creative industries. And I just want to share a couple of examples that I find really exciting that Hiroaki also mentioned in his opening. One of the award-winning movies, Everything Everywhere All at Once, uses Runaway to generate and produce the visual effects in the film. Developers are using coding assistants like AWS Code Whisperer to generate automated code suggestions, which allows them not only to improve efficiency, but also to focus on the innovation and remove some of the redundancies. Writers are using generative AI to iterate on drafts and improve their input. And architects and interior designers are using generative AI to experiment with prototypes and create early-stage renderings. So the potential use cases for general AI are as endless as generative AI as a technology. And at AWS, we're committed to developing this technology in a responsible way. So what do we do concretely to make sure that we're doing this? We're dedicated to having our team of responsible AI experts complemented with engineering teams and development teams that continually test and audit our products for fairness and accuracy. And our foundation models are built with responsible AI in mind at each stage. And again, I just want to highlight a couple of these elements that we're thinking about hand in hand with our design teams when we are developing these solutions and also supporting customers to develop these solutions. The first is accuracy. So how closely a summary, for example, matches the underlying document, whether a biography is factually correct. The second is fairness. You guys will realize that these are very similar to the OECD principles. Whether outputs treat demographic groups similarly. The third is intellectual property and copyright considerations, which I think are front of mind for a lot of artists and creators specifically working in this space. The fourth is appropriate usage, so filtering out user requests for legal advice or medical diagnoses or illegal activities, which again goes back to the point that I was making earlier of the importance of the use case, not looking at the technology or regulating the technology as a whole, but rather looking at the specific deployment of the use case. The fifth is the question of toxicity, so hate speech, profanity, and insults. And the sixth is the question of privacy, so protecting personal information and customer prompts, which we see as absolutely essential. We are looking into these questions in our processes for acquiring training data, into the models themselves, and also into the technology that we use to pre-process user prompts and post-process outputs. And I just want to close by highlighting two very concrete solutions that we've developed with some of these challenges in mind. The first I evoked earlier, Amazon Code Whisperer, which actually is the only AI coding companion with a built-in security scanning, powered by automated reasoning for finding and suggesting remediations for hard-to-detect vulnerabilities. So what we find interesting is, okay, well, how do we use the promise of artificial intelligence to address also some of the biggest challenges in artificial intelligence as a technology? And the second is our foundation models, which are built to detect and remove harmful content, Amazon's Titan foundation models, which really looks at the link between generative AI and the question of content moderation. And I'll just close, Sebastian, by saying that we don't have all the answers. The private sector doesn't have all the answers. Governments don't have all the answers. Academics don't have all the answers. And what we find is absolutely essential is these kinds of fora where we can, work through new approaches and solutions to mitigate these challenges like bias, address these privacy questions, and continue to iterate so that we do have the right safeguards in place to build trust in this technology and also to adopt it together.